rolling equity leasing.
I am
REL.
At REL, they're not just a leasing company.
We like to work with REL because
They seem to really care about us.
I am REL.
I am REL.
working with REL, it's a national company with a small town feel. REL.
REL.
I am REL.
I am REL.
I am REL.
We feel like we're working with friends. It's like you're having a beer with your buddy.
We are REL.
Hi, everybody. John Haldi here, and I am so delighted to be with Tim Steiner of REL Solutions. Tim, welcome.
Thank you, John.
Tim, today we're going to talk about a big, complicated topic, right? Warranties. And I know that we've done shorter videos to make these things more digestible, but you told me this one's going to have to be a big one because there's just no intelligent way to break it up into many pieces. But you're going to give me a primer on warranties. Is that correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
So without further ado, because I don't know a thing about this, I've never bought a truck and never looked at warranties, but I want to learn all about it. Start, if you would, please, with what are the different kinds of warranties that are out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a multitude of different warranties. You can get warranties that'll pretty much cover everything. The main ones that you really want to worry about are the things that are going to keep you up and going, right? We'll want to cover the engine, after treatment, and chassis. You know, there's more subtle ones like the AC and different stuff like that. That is one of those ones that you look back on and decide whether or not your fleet needs it. These ones that we're talking about are the main ones that are going to be your protection from very, very large invoices that stop the truck from running.
Okay. So you said engine, after treatment, and chassis.
Correct.
Can we go through those one at a time and dive in?
Yeah, absolutely. So the engine one is going to be pretty much your main one that's going to protect the very life of the unit, right? That's going to be the engine, right? It's going to cover your pistons. Most of the time it's going to cover your injectors. There's a lot of different stuff, but there's layers to these warranties, right? Depending on what you decide to buy, there's groupings of packages of parts that will be covered within the warranty. So it's good to understand not only what you're getting as far as coverage on the parts, but how the interplay is between the different brands, because different plans cover different portions by each OEM. So it tends to get very confusing.
So, okay, I believe you. It's confusing. Where do we start to understanding that stuff?
I think the main thing that we want to understand is what do we need to make sure that we're covered, right? There's an engine plan through Volvo. There is, engine after treatment plans through International, and then there's EW plans through Freightliner, right? And each one of these ones have layers. What I would recommend is getting the most robust coverage on the engine plans as possible, right? There's a difference between robust coverage and time frame and mileage coverage, though. So we have to look at those separately. Depending on how many miles that you want to run within your time frame of owning your unit, you want to look at major expenses, right? So if you plan to run out to 600,000 miles, you're going to want to make sure that your engine warranty will cover you all the way to that. If it does not, there's a point within your either ownership cycle or your lease cycle where the repair may outpace the value of the unit.
Okay, wait. I didn't connect all those dots.
It's a lot.
Robust, time frame, and mileage.
Correct.
I know what time frame and mileage is, but when you're talking about robust, what does that mean?
So there's different layers and packages, right? And so Freightliner is a very, very good one to kind of break this down with because the terminology is very straightforward. They have EW1, EW2, EW3, and EW4, right? And each one of those layers kind of cascade into the next. So there's basic coverage within EW1 that covers a set amount of parts. EW2 covers EW1 and a new layer of parts listings, and so on and so forth. EW4 is going to kind of give you a very, complete coverage within the engine.
So when you said you want to have the most robust possible, so what you're saying, I think, is just go for the gold plated?
Yes, that would be my recommendation. The value difference on the cost of the warranty between going EW1 or 2 and EW4 is nothing compared to the caveats of the repairs that can happen, right? So a single engine claim, depending if you're going to get a whole engine or if you're even going to get injectors, will pay for your warranty entirely. So you want to make sure that whatever warranty you're doing, you don't want to shortchange yourself over a couple $1,000s when it might cost you tens of thousands at a later date.
Okay. And as far as time frame and mileage goes, I know that if I have a team truck and it's doing what I hope it's doing, it's probably putting about 250,000 miles a year on the truck. So I'm going to hit 500,000 miles in 2 years. And if it's a solo truck and I'm not slip seating it, but it's doing over the road type stuff instead of spots, I may do 125,000 miles a year on the truck. So I'll hit 500,000 in 4 years. Is that what you're talking about in terms of checking time frame and mileage?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm glad you gave that mileage breakdown because those are the type of expectations you have to know before you get into purchasing your warranty. You have to have an expected life of a unit, right? And then you want to have your warranty cover the whole life of your what you plan to use the truck for, the time frame, the span. And in addition, if you can have a little bit left over, that's only going to help you on the resale value at the end. It makes the purchase, now that these things are transferable from owner to owner, it makes buying that truck much more attractive, knowing that you have, a time frame of coverage while you're getting into a different unit and getting comfortable.
And just to show my work, when I said 250,000 miles, I was thinking ideally or in normal frame, a team's going to do 5,000 miles a week, 50 weeks a year with 2 weeks of vacation and some downtime for the truck, whatever. So 5,000 times 50, I got to 250,000. If you've got a team doing a 7,000 mile run, you got to do your math differently, right?
Correct. And you want to make sure that you're matching up both your time frame and your mileage, because it's really bothersome because each one costs separate, right? So you can get EW4 for 500,000 miles, or you can get it for 600,000 miles, or you can get it for 3 years and 600,000 miles, right? So you don't want it to lapse because whichever point comes first is where they cut off the assistance.
Okay. And are there extended warranties on these things, or you get to just pick how many miles you want, and that's the idea of extended?
So that's kind of what we're talking about, right? This whole robust piece that I keep mentioning is all extended warranty. The basic warranty that comes on these trucks is generally about 100,000 miles with 1 year. That's an industry standard that comes across all units. Some other components, other pieces may go out a little bit longer. I believe Freightliner comes with a 2-year, unlimited mileage, but there's pieces that fall off along the way. So it's a very confusing piece, and that's a standard warranty. These all what we're talking about, purchasing the engine warranty, the chassis, these are extended warranties.
And if I'm looking at buying this truck and I think I'm going to run it for 4 years as a team truck for the first 2 and solo, I mean, do you like the idea of warranty out beyond 500,000 or 600,000 up to 700 if they'll offer it, or do you think that that's overkill?
No, because there's different mileage points where you're going to run into different sorts of repairs and different expected failure points within this. Right around 500,000 to 600,000, that's where you really run into those catastrophic failures that can cost you an entire engine. And if you have that coverage pushed all the way out to that, it can save you, easily $30,000 on a new engine.
Okay. So I know, generally speaking, what an engine is.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is after treatment?
The after treatment is essentially what we are talking about in general when it comes to the NOx reduction or the CO2 emissions portion of the vehicle. This helps clean and or recycle lost emissions back through the engine, through different cleaning portions, the DPF, other things along those lines. That's specifically what we're talking about.
Okay, is this the right transition to the after treatment warranties?
Yep, absolutely. And this is another portion. As we're going into questionable CARB rules and different laws that change, what is always getting pressed is the after treatment portion of this. How are you going to make this cleaner? How are you going to reduce the emissions? We want to make sure that those are covered, because as new technology comes out, as we know, it tends to be faulty and it gets cleared up over time through multiple, failure points that you adjust from. We want to make sure that we're going to be covered throughout this. And this portion has bleed over effect from the engine. So if your engine isn't quite maintained or you're not doing proper maintenance, it hits the after treatment a lot sooner sometimes than it will your actual engine. You want to make sure that you're going to be covered on that portion as well, because it can be just as catastrophic to go down and constantly have regens and get into limp mode and all these other things, and then you're sending out road calls just to find out that you need an entire new after treatment system.
And are those similar to the engine where you want the most robust and you want to make sure you're covering both the time frame and the mileage?
Yes, absolutely. That's an important distinction with each one of these categories that we're going to talk about. And it's funny because the people who manufacture these know expected failure points of these parts, right? So in order to ensure that you're covered all the way through, you want to get the most robust, because obviously the cheaper one's going to cover, the things that they expect to last the longest, and so on and so forth. So you just cover yourself more instances, the more robust the warranty. It is a hit up front and it's an investment. And there are, when you're buying for an entire fleet, there might be times where you do not use all of the warranty, but the instances that you do, you always come out ahead.
So going back to my example of a team truck, 250,000 miles a year, if you know you're going to put it on a team truck, would you say, yep, get 600,000 miles in 3 years, knowing that is somehow a month in, you lose your team run, you turn it into a solo truck, you're going to run out of your warranty in 3 years, well before you get anywhere close to 600,000 miles, right?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great thing you brought up, because there are ways to extend the warranties once you already have them in place. It is something that you want to kind of keep paying attention to continuously. There are, variables within the business that's going to cause you to pivot. And there are now options within each one of the OEMs where if you are still in warranty, you can extend them. They're coming along more and more to be able to bring other units back into warranty with, different programs. But the best is the manufacturer warranty, and to continuously extend that while you still have the time frame.
I want to ask you a little later about third-party warranties, but we'll get to that. So now I get what after treatment is. The chassis, I think I know what it is, but are we back in the same boat that this is critical and you want the most robust?
Yes and no. This one starts to depend on what kind of setup you have, right? If you have a shop and you have different things, a general mechanic that's very good to you, you might be able to get away with kind of dusting this one off. I caution you on that, because one instance, like I said, can pay for itself. But if you have a shop that's looking at this every day and they're clearing up your air leaks, they're greasing your truck, they're taking care of most of the stuff, and you can get these things swapped out at a reasonable price, you may or may not eclipse your chassis warranty. If you are somebody who, doesn't have those, which is the vast majority of the people I talk to, they're in this, they have a few trucks, they're just trying to work within the market, that chassis warranty will protect you from a lot of different headache things that begin to go bad. Consumable wear items, things that you generally expect to replace, kingpins, wheel bearings, a lot of those different things. You want to make sure that you have coverage on those, because those can down you at any time and be very costly. They aren't the same as losing an engine or having to rebuild the after treatment system, but they are small instances that begin to stack continuously. And then when you look at the cost of ownership, you're like, man, I could have had all this covered for the cost of the warranty versus the, $16,000 I ended up spending over the course of the life.
So if those are the big three, right? What are some of the other ones that are out there that are common? And do you like them or not like them? I mean, tow coverage, AC, what you mentioned a few others. What can you run down that list?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a multitude, so I will not hit them all, but there is AC, there's tow coverage, there's transmission, there's a bunch of different, more minor ones. There's major component failures, there's a lot of different things that we can get into. And they're almost puzzle pieces to fit together some sort of compensation to get you through the repair as an assistance, as an aid. The AC one is a unique one because you want to look back. And if you're, you want to keep your drivers comfortable, if you realize you're running in a lot of hot locations where you're going to run that unit quite a bit, the AC unit, I mean, specifically, and you're going to wear that out and your team's going to be highly uncomfortable, that AC warranty will pay for itself. If you're in a climate such as Wisconsin, where we have variable weather, you may or may not find that valuable, because you're not going to put the same type of strain on it. You're going to use it a few months out of the year, and it's not going to run constantly, like say if you were down in Arizona or Texas or something like that. So that's generally one where I would pass on it and then look back at the course of history and adjust for the future depending on what I'm doing. If I know I'm going to be in a hot climate, I will get it.
Okay, when you say I would pass on it, it's because you're sitting in Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
But if you were sitting in Ocala, you'd probably be paying for it.
Oh, 100%. One AC rebuild pays for that entire system, and you might end up getting 2 claims on it. And depending on who does the work, right? It starts to become a whole thing. If they only find one portion of the piece that's wrong with it, they don't replace the air dryer, they recharge the system. There's a lot of different things, and then you can begin to trace, track different pieces throughout the whole repair system, and you're back in, 3-4 times for something that should have been done right the first time. And then you have to fight with that vendor on their actual labor work to try and get that warranty versus just the OEM having you covered.
Tow coverage.
Tow coverage is not one I am very big on. This is mostly because I deal with such volume that if there is a failure within a warrantable coverage piece, such as engine, after treatment, transmission, these things we generally have covered. So we'll push these back onto the OEM to cover our tows through that. Some of the coverages, depending on which OEM, allow you to just kind of get a little free with the tows. So depending on your situation and the routes that you're running, it may or may not be worth it for you.
So in many cases for catastrophic issues, it's belt and suspenders. So you're paying for it twice.
Correct.
Okay. So you keep mentioning how the OEMs are so different.
Yes.
How does one begin to sort through that? And the question I'm going to get to, just so you know where it's going to be, is does the warranty, is that the dog and which make model you buy is the tail, or is you choose the truck because you love the truck and then you just deal with whatever the warranty situation is? How big of a factor is it in deciding what you're going to buy?
I would go with the truck first. Each one of these OEMs are going to cover you depending on how much you want to invest in the warranty. They're just different packages, and it becomes confusing where you may buy an engine plan 2 through Volvo and be pretty well covered. An engine plan 2 through Freightliner leaves you pretty exposed. So that EW2 level that we spoke about. So these are different caveats that you want to begin to understand. So if you like a truck and you go through it, what I would do is I would talk to your dealership. Generally, they have documents that will show you the parts that are covered within each range. And then you can work with your salesman or your maintenance individual to make sure that you are covering all the major components that can kind of fail for you.
And I've not seen these things. If it was the first time I was buying a truck, how complicated is this going to be for me to get my head around? Or do they try to put some sort of summary docs in plain English to explain it?
They actively avoid plain English. So it's one thing you want to be very cautious of, and they speak to specific parts. If you're new to this, it's gonna be challenging to understand, whether or not your injectors are going to be covered or not. And there's different pieces where they talk about oil pumps and your seals and your rocker arms and all these different things, your camshafts. And if you don't know these, it's going to be tough to kind of delineate the coverage. That's why, as a general guidance, we started off the video the most robust. It's going to do you the biggest favors.
On the big three.
Correct.
But all of the optional stuff, it's kind of like going to dinner. You know, you want an entree and you want a beverage, right? But now you're talking about appetizers and desserts and all that kind of stuff.
It's a fantastic way to put it. Yes, absolutely.
Are you suggesting, if you're unfamiliar with it, just buy everything?
Yeah, I really would, because you're going to have a little bit of a heavier monthly payment. You know what I mean? Because you generally finance these with the purchase of the truck. It'll raise the price of the truck during the purchase. But then that's spread out over time. You kind of know what to expect. These giant spikes in repairs, you're gambling on. If you know what you're doing, you're very on top of your maintenance, you can kind of get away with these things. You can whittle, bills down. There's a lot of room within this when you get into specifics, if you know what you're doing, or if you have a shop that can handle a turbo swap and all these other things, then you're in a much better position to be able to kind of reduce the total cost of your warranty. But warranty is one of those things on the automotive side that's generally way overbought, because that's where you get the most layman, right? They're just going to buy it, make sure that they're covered as often as possible. And then, they don't take their vehicles to the full life of, the warranty. On our industry, it's very, very different, and it costs you business. You know what I mean? Your entire revenue can go down this, stream. If you have to wait on an engine, if you have to be down for multiple weeks, and then you have to cover a $30,000 invoice, that can be devastating.
Do the warranties ever include the cost of renting a truck so that you can keep rolling and making money while they're working on your engine for 3 weeks?
Almost never. There are certain things that you can negotiate through volume. That's one of the things that we, the Solution Center actually has a benefit of, because we buy so many units. We can kind of negotiate some of that, but it's only in really extreme cases that we can get those covered.
And again, I've never done this. Let's say I buy a truck, it has an issue, I have a warranty, I send it in, they do a whole bunch of work. Do the dealers, the OEMs, when it's warranty covered, are they pretty good about going, yep, this is warranty? Or do you have to fight for everything tooth and nail because they're trying to deny and say it's not covered?
So that's another great question. But that's kind of layered. So generally, what I've seen is dealerships will like you to pay out of pocket. When it comes to the OEM and warranty, they only pay a certain percentage of your door rate. So you get paid less for warranty claims than if you were charging somebody for a job just coming in off the street. But at the same time,
hold on a second. When you say you get paid less, me as a TSP, if I was a TSP, or the repair shop at the dealer?
Thanks for the clarification. I'm talking from the point of being a repair facility as a dealership. I will get paid less for the same job if I bill the OEM through warranty versus if somebody comes in off the street and I just quote them up the job.
Right. Okay.
And
It's
then
like health insurance that way, and you're a doctor.
Yes, exactly. And on top of that, then, like I said, with the complications that lie within these different packages, you have to hope that the people that are administering your warranty are competent. And that's a whole separate, deal in and of itself. So you sometimes need to defend your warranty and get these pushed in. In addition to that, there's cascading failures where you have something covered under warranty that bleeds over and hurts something that is not under warranty. And we generally call that's called progressive damage. And if you know your warranty, you can sometimes get some of that covered underneath your original purchased warranty.
Is there such a thing as somebody who is a warranty claims manager who will go fight these things on your behalf for a fee?
There are some out there, but what I've seen is they're generally third-party administrators that kind of go back on a look behind basis, right? You go through, you paid for some stuff, you have these invoices, and then you can send it into the OEM. You can have a discussion with it. You can send it into the dealership, speak specifically with their warranty admin, and then you might be able to get a portion of that invoice back.
Because look, in the TSP community, you have some folks who are wonderful. Steve Crawford's a great example. Started driving a truck when he was like 12, and his father was a truck driver, and his father was a truck driver. He's been around trucks all his life. He knows what every part on the thing does, even though he's not necessarily a mechanic, right?
Right.
And then you have somebody who's been a TSP for a year or 6 months, and they used to be a mortgage broker, or they used to own Taco Bells, and they got into this because they love the business. They don't know their way around a truck. How does someone in the latter group begin to arm themselves with enough knowledge to push back on these things?
That's the challenging piece. You know what I mean? That's like, how do you file a lawsuit without a lawyer? You know what I mean? You have to kind of find somebody who has the knowledge base in order to work with you and help you out. If you're buying from one specific dealership and you're getting taken by another, generally you can go to your dealership who sold you that unit, and you can talk to their warranty admin and see if they can give you general outline and guides. And we had mentioned before, when we purchase a warranty, that we can get outlines of the specific parts. So if you just want to take a look at the estimate that you'll get when they're trying to kind of push you out of warranty and see if any of those parts are on there, you can have a dialogue back and forth with whatever dealership you're at and try and get those covered. But it becomes very difficult if you're arguing with an expert that kind of handles the phone all the time. It's going to be a difficult proposition.
This is not a shameless plug for REL Solutions, but I have to ask the question. If I was new and I didn't know my way around trucks, and I hire REL Solutions or another fleet management company, is that something I would expect them to do on my behalf, or you to do on my behalf?
Yeah, if they're worth their salt, that's one of the main benefits that they're going to do, is administer your warranty as best as possible. There are certain times where it gets, wonky, and the dealership will honestly deny something that's black and white, but that's why you need somebody who has a little bit of a more reach than just one or two trucks, because you can get on the other side to the OEM, and the OEM generally stands behind their warranties pretty well.
Speaking of that, third-party warranties. I would assume you would never in a million years buy a third-party warranty on a new purchase, right?
I strongly caution most people to stay away from third-party warranties in general.
In general.
Yes.
But if you were buying a used truck and it didn't have a warranty, that's the only option, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And there is some good that can come of it. But all the challenges that we're talking about with administering it, everything along those lines, you then are arguing with a company whose only business is warranty. So by definition, they have to take in more than they pay out, right? Similar to insurance, we had talked about that, right? So there's going to be a factor where you fight with them to get them to pay the shop. And that's generally, ironically, you and the shop become, partners at that point to try to get the third party to pay for it. There's
an OEM warranty. There's the additional layer of they're hoping you're going to buy more trucks in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you find that if you've got 2 trucks from a dealer, it's much harder to get things covered with a warranty than if you've bought 20 and they know you're going to buy 5 every year?
Yeah, the warranty, like I said, is kind of a play. If you know what you're doing, you can get that administered. You can get what's due to you. What is beyond is a different sort of request sometimes. Hey, I know that I eclipsed my mileage a little bit, but I'm still within my time frame. I plan on getting a lot more trucks from you. Is there anything that we can do here? Those conversations start to become palatable when the more trucks you buy. The less you have, the less those conversations are going to be effective.
Okay, so even if it's technically out of warranty, you might still be able to get on bended knee and
yeah, it's a little industry secret, but if you have a good dealership and you ask them, to see what they can do through their, district service manager or whatever that position would be within the OEM, there are people who call from the OEM onto dealership groups that kind of slide into that space to make certain things right.
I'm going to mention it because I heard this story. It may be outside of your domain because I don't think you necessarily buy the trucks. But I've heard stories where at least one TSP said, I was able to get bank financing, third-party financing for my equipment purchase at a very good rate. The dealer was offering to finance my truck, and throwing in an additional 200,000, 2 years or 1 year on the warranty if I finance through them. And they did the math and they said, you know what, I gave them the financing, even though it was a slightly higher rate, because the warranty was worth more. Have you heard of that happening?
Yeah, there's different caveats. Generally, they shouldn't be marking up any warranty. Sometimes if they are, they have a little bit of room to play with that, but there's always a little bit of profit when you're selling a truck. And there's generally the dealership and the finance arm are two different things. So they'll work together to try to get each other business every once in a while. I would definitely try and play that against each other because it is it's a viable option. I just haven't seen a lot of success when it comes to that type of stuff.
Really? Okay. So it's more if they're offering the promo, it might be worth doing the math.
Correct.
Okay. So what else about warranties? I know this is a big topic and we'll probably come back to it and get more in depth on specific things as folks send questions. But as a primer, I mean, I think I'm getting my head around it. What else should I know or should we know about warranties as we get into this if we're new to it?
One major thing I would pay attention to is just total cost to your business. We had mentioned this in a few other videos when we were talking. While you may be able to get something covered through warranty to reduce your total cost of ownership, you may be reducing profit while administering the warranty. So there's certain costs that you have to compare, right? Do I make more than this invoice is going to cost me by running this truck today? If, we have multiple times where we have customers who do not want to take a decline. They want to make sure that their driver's working and they want to make sure that they make that run and get that revenue. They will pay a $500 invoice if that gets them up and going today, whether or not that's covered by warranty. There's different things where you can work on the backside to try and recoup that, depending on who you use. If they structure the invoice correctly, you can be successful. But generally, it's the total cost to the business that you want to keep in mind. And while warranty is always there and you want to make sure you push as much as you can through that, sometimes it's at very inconvenient locations at very inconvenient times that can stop the progress of your business.
Oh, so you're talking about when you have an issue, do I take it to the dealer and use the warranty, or do I just pay cash because I get done faster, cheaper, whatever over here?
Yep. Do I get it fixed on the side of the road and pay the invoice, or do I, go to the dealership and face 3 days of downtime? These are the conversations that you need to make sure that you're having and you understand, because there is a true cost to the business. And we had mentioned this before with some of the mobile maintenance and kind of, shuttling the trucks back and forth and whether or not you can have a maintenance person. These are all decisions, and you want to take care of the business. While you want to keep the lowest cost on the truck, that is an absolute factor. The business is the most important piece here.
So you mentioned that the dealer's service shop will get paid less for warranty work than a cash payer.
Yep.
Does that mean that oftentimes they put you at the back of the line if you're warranty work?
Oh, no, that generally does not happen. And in fact, there's different measurements within the dealership groups from when work orders are created to when they're processed. And in warranty jobs generally get priority.
Oh, they get priority.
Yep. So they'll bring you in. That's kind of where the confusion happens. So they'll bring you in, they'll get it done. And if it's borderline, they'll try and shove you out, because if they have to process the claim, do the job, and submit it up to the OEM actually still has to accept that. Or they can call on that part and say, hey, we're seeing a few failures, send us your failed part. And if that part tests correctly, they'll send it back and deny the entire claim. And then the dealership has to eat that. So there's a risk for the dealership when they're administering warranty. So if something is borderline, they will try and kind of shove you into a customer pay situation.
Wait, in terms of timing, how fast you get out, or in terms of you having to pay for it and they say it's not warranty?
So it's generally all one. I know it's a little confusing and I'm throwing a lot at you, so I appreciate your clarifying questions. Generally, warranty will get you in and handled as quickly as possible, right? When you're looking for priority, that's generally what does it, because it's dealerships that are selling these warranties. The OEM wants to put a pressure on everything to get fixed, and they don't have to call you for authorization if it's within warranty. So they can knock these jobs out. But when you're in there, there's certain caveats that begin to pop up. such as borderline questions. Hey, did this part actually fail first, or is this a result of something else? What are we going to do here? And if it is borderline, they will try and push you into customer pay because of the risk that the dealership is taking on making those calls.
And when that happens, should you fight there and then, or should you pay it and fight after the fact so you get your truck back quick?
Always fight there and then. It's way easier to get these things resolved at the moment. But again, here's what we got into before with the true cost of business. If they're gonna, say, hey, okay, our warranty admin's on vacation, we'll check here in 3 days. Is that worth it? Right? Is the 3 days of extra downtime worth it? It starts to really get complicated as far as the decision making, and depending on the amount of revenue that truck is bringing, it might be worth it to pay that invoice, get the truck out of there, and then have the fight. You just might be a little bit less successful.
Okay. Jesus, this is complicated.
Indeed.
And you do this for a living?
This is one of the main things that we do over here. Absolutely.
I don't hate my job as much now. What other questions haven't I asked of you?
I guess, some of my caution on third-party warranties, I want to give a little bit of a distinction within that, right? There are different warranties that are offered through the OEM that are not exactly the extended OEM warranties. Freightliner is coming along in tremendous fashion as far as this goes. They have the EW 1, 2, 3, 4 that we talked about, and then they have Optimum and other things that kick in after the fact, but it comes from the OEM. It's just purchased after the fact. Complete third-party warranties are generally the ones where it really becomes a pain, and those are the ones that you want to watch out for. So if you're buying a used truck from somebody who sells all brands and they're not a dealership, that's where you'll start to run into those warranties that become a little bit of a headache to the industry.
Okay. And like insurance, a warranty is going to cover things that they expect are going to break, right? It's also going to cover those one-offs where some 1 out of 100, 1 out of 1,000 trucks has a horrible catastrophic issue, right? Manufacturing issue. So the portion that's covering the things that you're going to expect to repair anyway, probably dollar neutral at the end of the day, right? We're thereabouts.
Yeah,
About the payments. You're basically making payments over time through the
Right.
warranty that you're financing. But if you get that 1 out of 500 trucks that's an absolute disaster, this is where you didn't throw 200 grand down the toilet, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a very important distinction because while I push and I say, hey, let's get as much warranty as possible, there are trucks that perform very well and you just overbought warranty. That is a very realistic possibility. So I don't want to gloss over that. And if you're very good at maintenance and you have somebody who's on payroll as an hourly employee, you might actually come in underneath the cost of the warranty. So there's just different portions to really consider depending on your situation.
But generally speaking, it's an insurance plan on your fleet, right?
Right. Yes, absolutely.
I think I get it. I think I do.
This was a fun one, buddy. This is a lot of layers here.
Tim, as always, you're amazing to share all this knowledge. I'm going to take a pause here and speak to the folks watching it. Tim and I would love for people to reach out to either or both of us and say, hey, I've got more questions on this. Please help us know what you all want to learn, and we'll try to record the video or reach out to you directly to answer the question if it's very specific. The whole point of doing these things is for everybody to share knowledge and get better at what they're doing as a TSP. So Tim, you've been amazing to volunteer your time for this. So thank you a million times over.
Thanks, John. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, buddy.
And thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back soon.